Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives happening every day at 12 on ebizradio.com. Today at Lunchtime Coaching, we are chatting to a transformational life coach, Gary Bath. Gary, how are you doing?
Hi, fine, Kevin. How are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Good. Thanks for joining me today and thanks for making some time. Gary, to kick it off, don't you want to tell us more about you and what it is you do and what we're actually going to be talking about today?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Kevin. So Gary Bath is 61-year-old, single white male, gay, have been in the corporate world for many years, for over 8 or 9 years now, and originally come from Zimbabwe. Identified myself as a gay person right from the age of about 15, and have had difficulties in life being accepted by people, being accepted by family members, etc., and have also been involved in the gay community here in South Africa since about 1981, when I became a gay activist. I organized the Johannesburg Pride Parade way back in year 2000, when there were no community members that were willing to take it on. So to prevent the event from collapsing and closing down altogether, I decided to form a CC and took the event out of the city where it was getting quite dangerous and moved it to Zule. And that's something that I did for the first time and had difficulties in the 5 or 6 years that I ran it. Got ostracized by the community, got no support from the community. They kind of said to me, why was I taking the event commercial? And I explained to it then. Financially, it wasn't easy. It was a difficult job to do. I'm still paying off the overdraft that I conjured up during that period. Then went into the corporate world. In the corporate world, it was also very difficult to be a gay white male, to be accepted, to be understood, to know that we work just as hard as anybody else, that we can achieve any results that any other heterosexual person can do. And I was in the corporate world for 8 years.
So on that note, Gary, so I mean, when you say it like that, people kind of go, well, isn't that obvious? But like, that's one part of the conversation we're having today is, was that really a big challenge, being openly gay white male in South Africa, kind of going, yeah, this is who I am and what I do? Was it really such a challenge for you as an individual to kind of go, I'm as good enough and capable enough as anyone else?
So not for me exactly, Kevin, because I must admit, working for a global company, I was very accepted. I eventually, when I was retrenched in July last year, I left as the Global Pride Leadership Council chair for the Employee Resource Group. Now, that is quite an achievement on its own for worldwide to represent all the LGBTQ plus community throughout the company and giving them a safe space to come to work. So not only did I have challenges, or I didn't have any challenges to actually openly admit it, but I think personally within myself, I realized that the way that I was brought up, I kept having these negative belief systems. And it's from the negative belief systems that one gets this inferior complex to think, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I have no confidence in life, I cannot achieve the kind of goals or positions that people are asking me to do. So I then realized that I looked at the retrenchment as an opportunity. It was a great opportunity. I must admit, firstly, I thought, what did I do wrong to be able to be the second person in the company to be retrenched within the South African context? And realized, no, I can look at this as a great new opportunity. And so with that, I grasped it with both hands and I decided to become a transformational life coach.
Amazing. So tell us, Gary, the conversation we're going to be having today is one of the questions we're posing is the challenges as a gay male in corporate world, or not just a gay male, but being gay or being different or being anything on that spectrum. What are those challenges that we actually have? Don't you want to speak to us about some of the things and some of the experiences that people might sort of need to know and hear?
Yes, sure. So we know that within the South Africa context that some members of the family are ostracized or disinherit their children when they know that they are gay or their sexual orientation is different from the norm. So they feel alone, they feel that they're not good enough and that they're not worthy of being called their son or their daughter or whatever. And so with that, it builds up anger, it builds up frustration, it builds up a form of trauma perhaps, or a phobia against I'm not good enough. So there's feelings of resentment and doubt and anger and all that kind of thing. There's shame, sadness, fear, hurt, frustration, doubt, anxiety, and guilt that have accumulated in their lives over many, many years. And as I mentioned earlier on, this was something that I recognized, is that the negative belief systems that have been instilled in us by family, by society, by community are there from a very, very early age. And I've discovered through transformational life coaching that there are certain techniques that we can do as a life coach to be able to change that or release the unprocessed negative emotions.
Yeah. So, I mean, before we get to the actual technique and speak about that, do you have some kind of references and stories to share with us around moments that were quite difficult? I remember having as a gay man, I remember having a business partner who, strangely enough, was a psychologist, or she still is a psychologist. And this psychologist's business partner at the time, we often went to meetings, and when we sat in the meetings, we would kind of leave the meeting afterwards, and she would invariably go, do you think so-and-so is gay, man? And then I'd be like, I don't know, maybe it's not something I paid attention to. And then she's like, well, if he is, then you're going to deal with him because you're the gay one.
Yeah.
She would often say stuff like that. And I think what people don't realize about being in a position where you're the heterosexual person in the room, or you perhaps pay attention to someone who is a little bit more flamboyant or a little bit different, a little bit more whatever that is. Have you also found that people are kind of homophobic and they don't even know that they are?
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, absolutely. I must also say that something that I've noticed certainly since 1994 is when we got our new constitution and our rights were infringed in the constitution and that nobody can discriminate against us, it gave us a sense of freedom in a way, and that a lot of heterosexual women in particular always seem to say it's PC correct to know that I've got a gay hairdresser or my doctor's gay or this is gay or kind of thing. So yeah, I think for a gay person to deal with somebody else that could be possibly gay, it might mean that you can pick up on the body language or the gay lingo, or you can help them self-identify, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, and don't you think it's just a case of having more conversations around this and kind of going, no, actually, when you make comments like that it's hurtful, but it's also not okay. You know, It's not okay for you to say stuff like that. I'm just a person, like you're just a person. And my sexuality shouldn't play into the conversation of what it is we're having.
Yeah.
I was speaking to someone recently, and one of the conversations we mentioned were why often are we so intrigued and fascinated, and why is there such a necessity to have to label anything that I'm not aware of, or anything that's not the same as me? You know, why can't you just be a human, and leave it at that? And you know, I suppose the flip side of that argument is also that people want to be recognized for who they are. So if someone's trans, that's, you know, I'm a trans person and this is who I am, and that's okay. But I think, you know, my stance and my standpoint on this topic is it should come from the person who it's about. It shouldn't come from just anyone, right? I shouldn't just have an opinion based on the fact that according to my set of beliefs and how I put information in my head, that I start labeling and coining things what I think they should be. It's fine to have an opinion, but you don't always know how that sets up in someone else's mind, or how if you are offending someone or saying something that is derogatory.
I think it boils down to education. I think with everything that's happened within South Africa, the lack of education boils down to why people say certain things, because they don't know enough. Much the same as the HIV status that happened in South Africa as well, is if we aren't educated enough, we don't know how to handle those particular situations or those conversations, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of straight people that go from knowing about HIV to going, oh yeah, so if you're gay, you're probably going to give me AIDS.
Yes.
They sort of make that connection.
Yes.
And also, if you educate yourself enough, that's not how HIV works, and that's not how AIDS works.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to that conversation than just being so blunt about it, right? And I think it's almost, and I agree. I think it's, you know, people are uneducated about it, and they make statements that are completely incorrect and completely rude and offensive. And people should maybe just take the time to find out more before commenting, right?
Agreed with you, Kevin. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, that leads to where you were mentioning about the wonderful technique that we're going to speak about as well, because a lot of the time the anger, the shame, the fear, all of these emotions that we do feel are such big emotions that, you know, as an LGBTQ plus kind of person, you're already going through, and now you find yourself in a corporate environment where moments like these happen, where people are joking, and I say that in inverted commas, and they don't even realize the trigger and the enormity of the emotional baggage that you carry around with it, right?
Correct. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Even though a part of the employee resource groups, we try and make the workspace a safe space for them to know that they are appreciated and that they can bring their authentic self to work. That is the whole goal and purpose of an employee resource group, which is part of your diversity and inclusion within a company. If a company doesn't have diversity and inclusion, I think that's where it can make it a lot more difficult. But yes, to be ostracized or to be teased or to be called some derogatory names, which we know are names that we dislike within the gay community, it does play back in our subconscious mind of a memory that happened to us a couple of years ago, or when we were children, or whatever. Whether it be a physical hurt, whether it be emotional hurt, whether it got attacked as we left a bar or a club or a rave or whatever, it does certainly bring things back. Yeah.
So one of the techniques that you speak about is the negative emotional therapy. Tell us what this is and how this is useful and how do we use it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. So the negative emotional therapy is a technique that we are taught at the Transformational Coaching Academy in Pretoria. It's a very unique technique. It's one of the only of its kind in the world that we know of. And all the coaches that go through the Transformational Coaching program are taught this technique. It's a process which can release a whole lifetime of unprocessed negative emotions, such as those I mentioned earlier on again, and I'll mention them again. It's anger, shame, sadness, fear, hurt, frustration, hate, doubt, anxiety, and guilt that have accumulated in our neural network over the years. It then releases all the unprocessed negative emotions that have accumulated from conception until the present day. So studies have shown us that from the time that the first clusters of cells start to form in the mother's womb, the fetus can start to experience emotions. Maybe it's not experiencing its own emotions, but the fetus can sense the mother's emotions and accept them as its own. This seemingly only happens if the mother experiences highly charged emotional events or reject the child during pregnancy.
Yeah.
This is
sorry, but like what we don't often realize is even in that state, even in the moment that's those neural pathways are being created, it's very possible for the child to experience that negative emotion carried over from the mother itself, and that's the process here, is to kind of go to recognize it, to know that even possibly the negative emotion that you have or that you've carried through your life may not possibly be your negative emotion.
Correct. And it's so powerful. So the technique that we do is so powerful to eliminate all these unprocessed negative emotions from a person's past memory bank. So the technique then, what it does, it totally gets rid of a whole lifetime's worth of unprocessed negative emotions in a very short period. And the whole process can take about 4 to 5 hours, depending on the individual. And then after doing the negative emotional therapy, a person can no longer feel emotions like the ones I mentioned earlier, which is anger, shame, sadness, fear, hurt, frustration, hate, doubt, anxiety, or guilt in relation to any event that happened in their past. They can do their best, but they'll not be able to feel these emotions anymore.
So just to clarify, so you're saying this kind of technique, is it a sort of a 4 to hour one-off session that you're having for a whole day? or is this broken up into sort of sessions?
So it's broken up into 1 hour or 2 hour sessions, depending on the participation of the client, of the person that we're doing it with. We kind of create, without giving out too much, but just briefly, we create an old picture and we let them see that, because visualization is very, very important. And then we disassociate and you create a new picture, and then you dispel the old picture and replace it with a new picture. And that is what the whole technique is all about. So as I say, to 4 to 5 hours. So it can be 4 sessions, 1 hour each, over a week or 2 weeks. And that's basically how a life coach would do their work, is hourly sessions at a time. So the whole process can take anything from 4 to 5 weeks to 6 weeks. And it's an ongoing process. Yes.
So Gary, the point of these negative emotions, so I mean, we all know that they exist. We all have experienced them over and over in different types of moments. Where do you think, why is this important? Tell us the sort of why do we need to let go of these negative emotions? I mean, from a coach's perspective, I know exactly why we would. Okay. But listening out there, why do you think this type of process is useful and necessary for people to really consider?
It can certainly help you with career, with goal setting, with relationships. It'll give you a better quality of life. It'll help you to become the authentic self and the person that you are meant to be. So, for example, you might be saying, well, I don't get on with this person at work anymore because he or she keeps doing this and they're irritating me and it brings out anger in me and I know what they're going to say next. So it's your belief system. If your belief actually says it's a negative thought, delete, forget about it. It means no value to you. So it's a change in your belief systems and it's a change in your values. What are your values? What are important to you as an individual? For me to have a decent relationship with my partner, my husband, my wife, whatever, my parents, for example, I need to look at my belief systems. And again, that then goes on to affirmations, goal settings, manifestations, visualizations. We are unique individuals. We are powerful individuals. The mind and the brain is very, very powerful. And it's what we believe in, we can certainly change. Let's not listen to what Joe Soap says or listen to what Mary has to say or whatever. I am above that. I am better that. I am a unique person. There's nobody else like me.
Yeah. So I find that so interesting because I do similar processes to this and through timeline therapy as well. It's also a version of Gestalt therapy, but it's I'm just also looking at from an anxiety perspective. Why do you think anxiety? How do we change this from an anxiety perspective? Do we follow the same process? I think a lot of people, experience anxiety. I know that I've actually experienced anxiety from a perspective that I wasn't even aware that it was anxiety. So when I eventually went to the doctor and went through all my blood tests, because I was thinking I was having a heart attack, and the doctor was like, no, this is just severe anxiety. And I was like, oh, wow. I always thought of anxiety as like this crazy moment that I'm having or anxiety being something that's is a visual, obvious thing. And it wasn't. It was just a case of going, that formulated brain conversation that I was having was really driving me into a space of a lot of anxiety.
Right. So I was in a very similar situation to yourself, Kevin, is that I used to suffer a lot from anxiety, whether it be I can't meet the bills this month, I've got a job interview, I've got a radio interview, I've got other interview to do, and you get all very anxious and anxiety about it. But there is a healing gift that we've been shown as well, and that's on another topic, is that you can help people overcome that. So again, it boils down to your belief systems and how you interpret it, and actually get rid of that. And I must admit, since I certified in about October, I haven't had another anxiety attack ever since then. I've been shown a technique of how to self-heal oneself, and I can impart that onto other people and show them. So that is my mission. My goal is to help people with their emotional blockages, not just the LGBTQ plus community. We all have them, no matter what line of work or sexual orientation or whatever we're in. So anxiety can be overcome. It doesn't need medicine. It doesn't need a psychiatrist and a psychologist. It's call on a life coach.
Absolutely, yeah. Gary, I love that. And I thank you for making some time to chat to us. If we want to find out more about where to get hold of you, what is the quickest way to do that?
Okay, so there's two ways. So there's my mobile number. The mobile number is 064 897 7813. And the email address is info@pridecommunications.co.za. That's info@pridecommunications.co.za. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram. So I'm on all the social media platforms.
Fantastic. And if you could leave us with some added value for our listening audience today, what do you want to say about why we should really look at our negative emotions?
So I certainly believe that there are three laws that I aspire to, and that's part of what my practice is known as. My practice is known as light awakening potential. So there's the law of light, by transforming your conscious and connecting you to your own inner light, the light of this universe and the light in one another, you will open yourself to empowerment, knowledge, and a deeper connection to your own awakened consciousness. Then there's awakening. To experience an awakening where the spiritual, personal, or in any other aspect of your life become more aware. To achieve awareness means self-control, stability, and focus. And of course, last but not least, potential. There's an unlimited number of possibilities and infinite potential within everyone and everything in the universe due to the connection of the energy to universal consciousness.
Fantastic. Amazing. Gary, thank you. Thank you. That's Gary Bath, guys. All the information that we've been speaking about today, we will be in the description boxes below and also showcased all over social media. Gary, thank you for joining me and thanks for having a chat.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks to your listeners. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.